I'd like to share with you some memories I have of growing up in my hometown and a little bit of history of that town, a little bit of history of my family as well. And I'd like to start with my parents. Now, my parents met when they were teenagers in the late 1940s. They were married early 1950s. They both had jobs at the time, so they saved up for a deposit on a house. Well, I say house, it was actually an abandoned butcher's shop at the end of a terrace, and it was wedge-shaped. I'm not joking when I say the back of this house was only 5 or 6 feet wide and the front was 18 feet wide. But they paid the deposit, they did it up and they moved in. When they started our family, my parents and my oldest brother, who had arrived by then, moved next door to a more normal 2 up, 2 down house. Mum gave up work to raise us, as was the convention, and Dad worked as a tea salesman at the time. Now, the company my dad worked for were brilliant. They actually gave him a loan to buy that house. Not a mortgage as such. It didn't involve the bank at all, and the repayment interest rates were really good. And this is the house that the rest of the family were born in. Now, we didn't have a lot of money or things, but we had each other, and we had lots of everything else. Plenty of places to play. We had acres of countryside on our doorstep, and we felt safe. There were loads of kids, our own age, younger, older, and we all used to go out and play together. I grew up in a family of 3 siblings and an honorary Auntie Margaret and Uncle George next door. Typical working class scenario of the time, and all of us kids knew that we could just walk in and out of next door and sit down and it wasn't a problem. Now, my dad was a grafter. He worked really hard, long hours to provide for his young family. All the men I knew were grafters. When they weren't at work, they had their overalls on doing something or other, either building something or repairing something. And I can remember Dad bartering for tools and materials with neighbours at once for a DIY project he had going on at the time. And we had a brilliant community, and there was always somebody there to help, and he did help. And as a result of that, me and my 2 brothers learned valuable social skills and practical skills from a young age. He showed us how to use tools, how to measure up, what kind of materials we would need for what jobs. And as a result of that, we all went on to get qualifications, one in joinery, one bricklaying and one electrician. Good, solid trades. And just as an aside, when you're working on building sites, alongside other trades, you pick up other skills too. Lifelong skills. And, you broaden your skill set and you just don't forget those things. My parents also made sure my sister got a good education too. She's had some amazing jobs and she's travelled all over the world. My parents wanted to build a safe, secure future for their children and give them the best start in life. And they certainly achieved that. But I'm getting ahead of myself though. The town I grew up in used to be surrounded by coal mines, or pits as we used to call them. However, they were all closed by the 1960s, just before I was born. And this wasn't a local decision, but a decision made between government and the National Coal Board, simply because the coal could be extracted cheaper elsewhere. And then the Beeching axe fell. Now, for anyone who doesn't know about the Beeching report, it was produced for the government to make the railway system more efficient. As a result of that report, our railway station and branch line closed in 1965, and not a thought was given to the effect that that would have on towns like ours up and down the country. It was devastating. However, our town was still fairly prosperous, despite losing the pits and the railway. It still had a cinema, pubs, 3 medium-sized factories, a beautiful park, great schools and a fantastic community to live in. Now, it's probably not possible in a town with a population of around 6,500 people, but it just seemed like when I was growing up that everybody knew each other. It certainly felt like that. And I think I get that feeling from the fact that the majority of people had something in common. And it was the town. because they all had parents, grandparents, great-grandparents that had lived in that town, had contributed to the town, and multiple generations, all contributing towards the community. By the 1980s, however, employment started to decrease. The big employers in the town found themselves struggling against foreign competition, and by the end of the 80s, they'd all closed down. The junior school and the secondary school moved to a town about 4 miles away. The only biggish employers in the town after that were the council and the job centre. Most of my family had moved from the town by then, initially to find work and then settling down where they found the work. I commuted to Durham for 11 years before I found work somewhere else, and that's where I've settled. Now the weird thing is though, even though employment is nowhere near the levels it used to be in my hometown, housing estates now occupy the land where factories once operated, and the population has gone up. In 2011, it went up to 9,500 people. Government decisions have the potential to wreck communities and frequently do. The town I grew up in, my hometown, will not give in. I went back there recently and people are still busy taking on empty shops and making them into their businesses, whatever that may be. Tradespeople are still going strong. The town is doing okay, thanks to the people who live there now, because they are the same as the generations that's gone before them. It's what we do. We build things. We fix things. And we have a knowledge of belonging and community. The people of that town are a collective, and that's their home. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.